Our next speaker is Julio Carvalho, who's going to speak on how addiction leads to suicide. Julio Carvalho first encountered the Spiritist doctrine when he was about 14 years old. Since then, he's become an active participant in the United States Spiritist movement, has co-founded the Spiritist Center Divine Light in Newark, New Jersey, which he coordinates, and has become a prolific speaker, disseminating the Spiritist message, not only in the tri-state area, but also in the Union County Jail, where he works as a mental health counselor. So please welcome Julio Carvalho.
My good friends, I feel personally that I am a member of a team of speakers, and also a member of the audience, which gives me great joy that we are here to do something positive. And since I know the other speakers as well, they're all my close friends, they know how much I care and I feel about them, I want you to help me recognize the wonderful work done by Christine this morning. Reason being, she claimed during her lecture that she suffered from panic attacks. And in order for someone to stand before a crowd like this one, where sometimes you might find faces, they are looking at you like they want to shoot you with the boot. It takes lots of courage to stand up here and talk. So please help me encourage Christine. Those weak applauses will not get Christine anywhere. I want real applauses for Christine. We are very few workers, and whenever we find someone who's willing to come up in here, especially when they have an academic background, and say the things that she said, we definitely want to have this kind of workers next to us, and for that, we need to support one another all the time. Having said that, let's start by wishing peace in our hearts. The government has an agency in which sets the standards of our health. That agency has a president. We don't name him the president, we name him the Surgeon General. And this Thursday, 2 days ago, the Surgeon General released the first report on substance abuse disorders. Now, it really impresses me that the problem of substance abuse is very pervading and old, and yet this is just the first report. They had other reports done on cigarette smoking, but never have they done a report on substance abuse. And why is that? Well, that's because America is facing a great epidemic of substance abuse. And why? In the book organized by Julio Carvalho, the Spiritist book, he asked the highly evolved entities a very important question, which is question 913. What is the cause of all of our pain, of all of our misery, our individual causes and our collective suffering? What is the root to all of our vices? And the highly evolved spirits answered, selfishness. Analyze all of your social problems, all of your individual pain, and you will find in selfishness the root to all of the problems. So when we look at our current epidemic that we have, it is selfishness the driving force. And I'll explain to you why. In 1996, the drug company Purdue produced a drug that was intended for stage 4 cancer patients, people who are terminally ill. And as a result, the crimes that this medication was intended to were very few because they were dying. So someone there had an idea. Why not spread the message that this painkiller medication is good for any kind of pain, not just people who are terminally ill. And the biggest problem is that they had doctors willing to sell their souls, to give up on their consciousness, to come out and say that the painkillers were not addictive. Less than 1% of people who use painkillers develop an addiction. And it was a gigantic lie. So big that in 2007, Purdue was sued for lying to the public. They had to pay $635 million for falsifying information, for misleading the client to believe that these drugs were not addictive. Now you might say, wow, they were really hurt. $635 million every year. Just one of the drugs, oxycodone, produces $1.6 billion in sales. Since the creation of that medication in 1996, Purdue has made $30 billion on that medication alone. They name these medications blockbusters. Where did you hear that term before? That's when a movie comes out and everyone sees the movie because it's so good. Everyone takes the medication and it becomes so good. It becomes the norm. So anyone that entered a doctor's office asked for a painkiller medication, doctor was willing to prescribe it for the simple fact that he wanted to avoid pain for his client. He wanted a happy client that will come back as many times as needed, that guarantees the money flowing. And as a result, we are in such great trouble when it comes to addiction. The entire world takes oxycodone, but 80% of the clients of this medication are found in the United States of America. This epidemic is so intense that in the beginning of October of 2016, 28 people overdosed in a matter of 5 hours in West Virginia. Overdoses are happening so frequently that firefighters are carrying with them another drug to suppress the overdose effect called naloxone. Firefighters are saying they're using more of this medication than fire hose. They're spending more time trying to resuscitate people from overdose. When someone takes the medication for the first time, statistics says, according to the Surgeon General report, that they can become addicted. One pill, that's all it takes in order to trigger a chemical pathway in our brain that makes the individual addicted to this same substance. So it comes to a point that the medication becomes a burden. And now to continue having the same effect, the painkiller seeker will find out that heroin is cheaper than the pain medication. And now you have an heroin epidemic as well. 48,000 people die every year of opioid abuse. 48,000. That's a gigantic number. There are enough painkiller medications being prescribed right now to give each American citizen one bottle. It's approximately 260 million prescriptions every year. So big pharmas have lots of money rolling in from this medication. They could care less how much sue they get, because at the end, they're making a big profit. Now you might ask, how in the world did Food and Drug Administration approve this? I don't need to patronize anyone, but I'd like to keep the entire audience informed. What is the Food and Drug Administration? It is a department of the U.S. government in which oversees, analyzes, and approves everything that we eat, take, and drink on this country. So the same company came out with a new medication, 12 times more potent than oxycodone. And a panel of doctors, psychologists, sat down to analyze if this medication should be approved or not. And this panel gave FDA a big no. Let's not make the same mistake again. Look how many people are dying over this epidemic crisis. And after getting that no, FDA went ahead and approved anyway. The drug is out there in the market. And why? Selfishness is at its core. Greed that comes from selfishness produces companies to look at us as guinea pigs for their products. They have chemists who know very well the mechanism of our brain. When someone takes a painkiller, for example, it activates the basal ganglia. That's the part of our brain that is connected to the dopamine system. For those of you who are not versed in neuroscience, I'm for sure there's only one person here versed in neuroscience. This is an organism. An organism is made up of organs. Organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. The brain is made up of neurons. These neurons, they have a little head, which we call the cell body, and then the dendrites, and an axon. The reason you're able to see, hear, talk, walk, is because neurons communicate with one another through neurotransmitter. So whenever you do something that you like, a neuron releases dopamine, which gives us a sense of pleasure. And then we get addicted to the release of dopamine. So let's say when you eat chocolate, am I saying this only for the women? When you eat chocolate, you get a release of dopamine, and then you get addicted to the release of dopamine, which is created by the chocolate, which, if taken moderately, it works wonderful. For some people who are already casting a gigantic shadow on the wall, on the floor, that could be a problem. No one understood the joke, right? And he's looking at me, very fearful eyes. But when it comes to a painkiller, the basal ganglia is activated. It gives us a sense of pleasure, what substance abusers call the high. And now that they have this high, lots of dopamine are between neurons, and suddenly they get reuptaken by the neurons, and now another system is activated in the brain. It's called the extended amygdala. This part of the brain is what gives us the flight or fight instinct that we have. So individuals who are now off the high, they label this as having a withdrawal. It's a terrible symptom to feel, and it activates the amygdala. They become anxious, sweaty hands. They just want to run away and get it. And at that point, a different part of the brain is activated, the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for our decisions. It acts like a coordinator, like a symphony band, has a conductor. That's what the prefrontal cortex does to coordinate different parts of the brain. It is our decision-making center. So when someone takes drugs, they are activating these three different systems. As the drug is being retaken and retaken and retaken, they distort this dopamine system, and as a result, they lose their sense of discernment. The topic of our talk is how substance abuse leads to suicide. In a short answer, whoever is taking drugs, they lose their ability to discern right from wrong. They lose their capacity to make a reasonable, a logical choice because the drugs overpower their reasoning to an extent that they are willing to give up on anything just to get the first high again. That's what they're searching for the same feeling. But because they have redone it and done it and redone it over and over again, they have disrupted this system that in order to get the same feeling of high they felt first time doing it, they need to do more and more and more. Hence, the natural process of getting addicted and using more and more, because the same quantity does not produce the same effect again. And from there, it's just a mountain down. Some, they go on to say that in order to get pain medication prescribed to them, they hit the wall just to break their fingers on purpose. Go to the doctor, so the doctor can prescribe Percocet, Vicodin, to deal with their pain. There was someone giving a testimony in a documentary. He said he had 9 tooths pulled out of his mouth. 9 teeth pulled out of his mouth just to get Vicodin again, over and over from his dentist. Another woman said that one day she decided to leave her family behind and just drive to the city and live there because the drugs was next to her. But that was not the end point for her. She used to go into broken houses and do her drugs. And one day she found someone who was dead on the bathtub out of overdose. And that was not enough to stop her. She simply closed the door, ignored that the woman was dead, and searched for another room so she could do her drugs. But that was not enough. When they are using heroin to search for the painkiller high, the drug dealers are adding everything else plus heroin. So whoever's using heroin, they don't know what really they're injecting into their body. So some of them could lose a finger, could lose a vein, and for this woman, that was not enough. She had a wound so big in her leg where she used to inject that she had magnets inside the wound, and that was not enough. She was taken to the hospital, overdosed, completely dead. At the hospital, they resuscitated her, and while they were getting more medication for her, she got the IV out and walked out of the hospital, went to the same house, and used the IV from the hospital to inject the heroin. This is just to give you an idea of how powerful these medications are, how addictive they can become. And since The main theme here is to prevent suicide. Be very careful at your house, where you store your medication, because these drugs are everywhere. And I think the problem has become so prevalent that you did not expect to see in these perfect communities, suburban communities, where you have the so-called perfect life and the American dream achieved. That's where the epidemic is really intense. And why? Because medications are everywhere. You go to your neighbor, and somewhere there is taking pain medication. It could be the grandmother of your friend, and you steal some pills, you put in your pocket, and before you know it, that one pill that you're playing with leads you to suicide. It's coming to a point that we really should evaluate what is the need for most people to be on this medication. Legislation needs to be passed to change how we're dealing with the medication. Legislation needs to be passed for more money to go into preventing the problems to begin with. And the pharmaceutical companies should be paying for these programs, not us, the taxpayers, because we did not create the problem. We were immersed in an environment in which led us to this crisis that we must undergo due to corporate and farmer greed. If you have children, choose wisely who are your friends. Know the parents of your children's friend. Very important, because all it takes is just one pill, one party. They get hooked, and that's it. If you have surgery, you might as well just deal with the pain. Some of the mothers in these documentaries, there are tons of them now, because the government is really worried that they're going to lose an entire generation of young people to these painkillers. In one of the documentaries, a woman said that she's the one who went to the hospital and she had to do surgery in her leg, and she started taking Percocet. And her 14-year-old daughter found the Percocet, and her friend convinced the daughter for the simple fact that she was feeling tired from practicing too much volleyball in school. So the friend said, just take this pill and the pain will go away. That's all it took. That teenager lived a so-called perfect life. She got hooked on this painkiller, went on to do heroin, robbed the parents, and from then on started prostitution. And then she went to jail. Now, if you have someone in jail due to drugs, there are certain points in this addiction process that jail is the best thing that can happen for them. I worked in the jail system for the past 11 years, and some people, they tell me that when they got arrested, they were saved from themselves. Because by being there, in approximately a month, they're thinking straight again. The prefrontal cortex is now working appropriately. They are able to discern with clarity, and they are willing to ask themselves, how in the world had I had the courage to do what I was doing? Beautiful young women, young as 18 years old, prostituting themselves, selling their body just to get to a chemical. It doesn't make any sense. But this particular girl, she was in prison for 6 months, but her addiction time was 4 years against 5 months of clean time. That was not enough. She went back out to her mother's house, and her mother thought everything was well. The storm passed. She went to the store, bought a whole bottle, went home, and while her mother was cooking, she overdosed and died. For this mother, the pain of her own child dying with substance abuse, it is way more intense than if she had bared the pain of dealing with the surgery in her life with no medication. If you yourself have to go to the dentist or a doctor and go through surgery, analyze very carefully if you're not better off not even taking these medications to begin with. Dealing with the pain. Pain has a powerful message. Message of pain is change. Change what? Change what we're doing. And doctors who have now grown a consciousness are not prescribing these painkillers anymore. Those who grew up conscious, they are giving alternative ways to deal with the pain. And there are many alternative ways that we can deal with physical and psychological pain. But right now, the country is in a big mess. People are dying everywhere. And I don't want to be pessimistic about this. I want to be very real that as long as we have greed, other medications will be prescribed, created, invented in order for mass incarceration to happen. Incarceration through a substance. Now that I mentioned incarceration, there is no way that we can put all addicts in the prison system to get them out of the substance abuse. There are not enough jails to do that. It's prevention. We need to invest in prevention. And I think that this is where Spiritism can do its greatest contribution. Because I don't want to blame solely on the big pharmas for creating these medications. Because there are truly people who are in need of these medications, who are dying from stage 4 cancer, who doesn't have to bear the pain while they are dying. It's the abuse that we are complaining about. But Spiritism help us understand what is truly happening. How come substance abuse kills a lot of people? And how come so many people are addicted? Spiritism main purpose is to overcome materialism. What is materialism? The belief that this is it. And surprisingly, even religion, traditional religion, teaches materialism. When you hear some of the testimonies, usually they have to do with materialistic statements. Someone might say, before I came to this specific church, I used to rent a house. Now I have my own. Before I came to this place, I had to travel by bus all the time. Now I have my car. I was poor and now I'm rich. I didn't have any boyfriend. Now I have 3. The testimonies are always related to material things, which is a big contradiction because here you are teaching the kingdom of heaven and fiercely fighting to possess the kingdom of earth. That in itself creates hypocrisy. You say one thing, yet your personal life is completely different. Your actions. And why is that? That's because we only follow things that we understand. We are rational beings, for God's sake. If an idea does not make sense to us, we don't follow. We pretend to follow. In that sense, Spiritism, that is not strong because of mediumship phenomena, it is strong because of the logical ideas it teaches. It talks to our logic and reasoning, help us to prevent suicide. If I am a materialistic individual, by definition, I will become hedonistic as well. What is to be hedonistic? I am constantly seeking pleasure to deal with today's pain. As a materialist, I don't care what happens tomorrow. I'm not sure of what's going to happen tomorrow. And traditional religion explanation of tomorrow is so uncertain. You burn in hell, what is going to happen? You eat grape until eternity comes. doesn't make any sense, those explanations. And by not making any sense, it instills in me the uncertainty of my tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen with me Sunday. But today is Saturday, and I'm feeling this pain. And in order to cope with this pain, let me get some medication. Alcohol, drugs, and even carrot cakes. Food addiction, which unfortunately is something else that we are victims of back in the 1970s. The food industry removed fat from our food and converted everything to cheese. We cheese everything. And they noticed that the food became untasteable, unpalatable, and as a result, they added sugar into everything. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine, and it makes the same neuron path work in our brain. And as a result, we have also the epidemic of food and sugar addiction. So if I'm uncertain of my tomorrow, and today is very painful, I want to just get rid of the pain in any shape or form that I can. Spiritism helps us to understand that this tomorrow is something very real. If I try to run away from this tomorrow by killing myself today, all I'm doing, I am multiplying the amount of pain that I have. I'm not solving anything. In the Spirit's book, there is an entire section on suicide. And we understand from that section that each suicide experiences their pain in a very unique way. The suffering that we feel on the spiritual world is customized for each individual. But if there is a feeling that all suicides feel on the other side, is the regret that the pain is still there and they're trying to escape from it. It's all there. And there will be no Percocet on the spiritual world in order for them to deal with that pain. There will be no Vicodin, no oxycodone. And why? Because in the spiritual world, the highly evolved spirits, they understand the purpose of pain in our lives. Because most people are stubborn, we either change through love or through pain. What is to change through love? That's what we're doing right now. All of us are trying to learn, eradicate our ignorance from our mind. That is loving ourselves. I will stop doing that, not because God is mad at me, not because someone is prohibiting me. It's because I finally understood that this substance is no good for me. Do you smoke? No. Does God prohibit you from smoking? No. Is he mad if you smoke? No, this has nothing to do with God. Does your religion prohibit you from smoking? No. So why you don't smoke? Because my intelligence prohibits me from smoking. Why in the world am I going to pay for cancer when it comes for free? $9 a pack of cigarettes per day. You multiply that by 7. You multiply that by that number by 4 to give you a month. Our yearly consumption of cigarettes, it's more expensive than vacation for 2 to Bahamas all inclusive. Would you rather invest in your cancer or go to Bahamas? It's a question of intelligence. And it bewilders me that sometimes we drive by hospitals and you see people in white coats smoking. It's a big contradiction. So in the spiritual world, the spirits, they know that the purpose of pain is because we ignore the message of love, and now we have to deal with pain. Whenever we suffer, it's because we first close our ears to the message of love, and here comes pain to teach us exactly what love was trying to say. Change. That's why we experience pain in the spiritual world. It's not punishment for what we have done. It's our way of waking up to the real purpose of life. And before life set us up with pain, it tried to love so many different ways, and we didn't listen. Your father talks to you and says, don't do this. I've been there. I've done that. Don't do it. Your mother says the same thing. A good friend will tell you, don't do that. You might hear the message in a song, even in a movie. This is God trying through all different ways to get the message of love. Take care of yourself. Choose what is best for you. But then we don't listen. And here comes the pain to explain to us what love was trying to say. So in the spiritual world, we experience pain not as a means of punishment, but to not make the same mistake over and over again. A mother brought her son to Chico Xavier in an act of despair. As a mother, she loved her son, but she didn't know why he was having these illness that required the doctor to amputate both of his legs. To aggravate the matter, he was born without his arms. So she wanted to hear from the spirits, through the medium Chico Xavier, why her son developed a disease that required to amputate his legs. And Emmanuel said this to Chico Xavier, not to say to the mother. He gave her words of encouragement, of counseling, but he did not explain in detail what took place. But we know this because it was written down many years after the incident. And Emmanuel explains to Chico Xavier that that boy was someone who committed suicide many different reincarnations. And most of the time he used his arms as a means to kill himself. So in the spiritual world, having a different perspective, like our friend Christina well spoke this morning, we see life in a completely different angle. We beg for struggles. We welcome difficulties because we know they are our way of getting rid of our more imperfections to achieve happiness and love. And he did this, and he asked, please, I want to be born without my arms. So when I reincarnate, I will not commit myself to suicide again if I run into the same troubles. Because suicide itself becomes addictive. Running away from the problem. And now that he was facing the same psychological challenges, he was already planning on his head how he would run away from his mother and jump on the river. And this is why he was developing that disease of his legs to be amputated so he wouldn't jump on the river and once again find himself in the spiritual world with more debts. Someone might listen to this and say, what a far-fetched idea. Well, what is the alternative? The society that we have now? Are we happy with what we have? More wars, more drugs, more killings. We have so much ability to communicate and technology, and our numbers are getting worse and worse and worse. 1 million suicides per year in the entire world. By the end of our lecture, hundreds of people would have committed suicide in the U.S., in the world, and here in the U.S. as well. And you might ask, who are these people who are committing suicide? Those society label as having the perfect life. They have the fur, the cars, the rings, the lifestyle that so many people envy. Because when you look at statistics, poor people are not killing themselves as much as the rich people. The Baltic Sea countries, very rich, lots of money, perfect life. There where you find high numbers of suicide. And why is that? Because we have this myth that by having money, life should be perfect. It's a myth. Money is just a very narrow aspect of our life. We have our physical aspect, we have our social aspect, the people that we hang out with, we have our family aspect, and then we have our spiritual aspect. These different aspects of our lives need to be in balance in order for us to have what we all crave for, peace, which is the foundation of happiness. So why do people kill themselves? Because of the world view. There is no tomorrow. Let's enjoy what we have today. Teenagers, they say amongst themselves, Lolo. No, not Lolo. That's the YOLO. You only live once. No, you don't. You have many reincarnations. Which means, let's do whatever we can right now. Because YOLO. And unfortunately, adults, they live by the same motto. Let's do everything now because we only live once. And the pain continues to multiply. So what the pharma companies find is a very fertile ground in order for them to flourish with their medication. Because our philosophy of life becomes so materialistic that in order to bear all the natural troubles, we need to annihilate our feelings by consuming all these drugs, painkillers, food, anything that alters our state of mind. But there is also a different kind of addiction that don't come from substance abuse. And these are addictions to feelings. Some people are addicted to stress. Vanessa will elaborate on that one. But it's also an addiction. And it creates the same neural pathway in our brain that individuals now become prisoners to those feelings. There is a particular story about this man who was very jealous. And he was addicted to the feeling of being jealous. But he got to a point that he hired a private detective in order to watch his wife all the time. So one day he finds himself in the spiritual world. And the story goes that Peter was at the entrance of heaven. And Peter said, whoever who walks through these doors must have a very horrible death. Can you explain to me what your death was? So we have 3 individuals over there, and each one of them, they were remembering what happened to them that particular day. So this man, he remembered that he hired a private detective to watch his wife. And then another guy was there. He remembered that he used to be a refrigerator technician. And on the day of his death, he was fixing somebody's refrigerator, and the woman simply says, "Get into the refrigerator, get into the refrigerator. My husband is coming, get into the refrigerator." And he jumped inside the refrigerator. And the third guy who was there, he was doing jumping jacks on the 10th floor of his building, of his apartment, and he slipped, and he fell, and he was hanging on the 9th floor. So the 3 of them shows up, and St. Peter says, how come did you die? What was your horrible death? And he says, well, I found out that my wife was cheating on me. I rushed up to my house, and then when I opened up, I could hear someone was trying to run away, and I couldn't find anyone. And then I saw this guy hanging on the 9th floor. That was the guy who was cheating with my wife. You know what I did? I got this broom and I beat his hands up and I beat his head up, and he fell. And I wasn't happy because while he was falling, he fell on this truck full of mattress and he was alive. And then what did you do? He said, I pushed this refrigerator out of my house and I threw the refrigerator on top of him. And he came to find out that the man was hanging, was a man doing jumping jacks, and the man refrigerator was actually the refrigerator technician. He killed 3 people all that day, just addicted to jealousy. Very traumatic and painful as well. We need to take care of our emotions. Vanessa will talk about that. But keep your eyes wide open if you have these substances at your house. What is very surprising to me as well is that this report just came 2 days ago, after the election. And I don't know if you're aware, but there are many cities in which marijuana was approved for recreational use. And if you hear the stories of those who are now behind the prison of their addiction, most of heroin addicts, painkiller addicts, started with a more acceptable drug, like marijuana. We all need to do our part in order to change this scenario by being addicted not to substances, but by being addicted to good, by being addicted to being polite, by being addicted to being happy, by being addicted to being peaceful and forgiving. That's our addiction. We get so used to being good that we forget that we're good. We just do it naturally. Some people, Marcelo presented about being rejected. And we Spiritists, we can do one thing that is so powerful: acknowledge the importance of other people. What can we do the minute we get out of this lecture today? When we go out to our home, you might pay the toll, and there will be a man sitting there. That's a human being. You look at his name tag, and you say, "Hi, John, have a good day." That's it. If you get into a bus, say hello to the bus driver, mention his name. When you go to the groceries, that lady at the cashier, that's a human being. Acknowledge other people's existence. At your job, give more handshakes. If you're doing that, give more hugs. Bite people in your ear, make sure they exist. And by spreading that love, you are helping others to acknowledge their own existence. Because as the epidemic grows and we become more materialistic, there is a tendency for people to become more cynical. They can't trust anyone else. And they reject others because they're so afraid of rejection first. You do your part. And love, hug, smile, pray for everyone at your job, in the streets, and we'll be doing much to help ourselves conquer this crisis, which in essence, it's a moral crisis. It's not a substance abuse crisis per se, but a moral crisis. Because when we understand the brain, we're not understanding the spirit per se. This is just a vehicle that the spirit thinking energy is using to manifest itself in this spiritual plane. So our current science misses big on this point. We have to deal with the individual who's driving the machine, not just treat the car, but help the driver as well, showing a new destiny to life. This is why the spirits came. In beautiful poems, they synthesize our duties in life. This is why Castro Alves, in a poem entitled March On, tells us to do that. Let's move on. Time to progress. Life is full of mysteries, encompassed of laws of beauty which compels us to evolve. From God we emanate, multiple forms we reincarnate, longing for perfection and love. In humanity we seek the truth from many myths, yearning for peace and evolution. We cause in our path multiple lives and deaths, victims of our own disillusion. From the eternal struggle, building ourselves from the rubble, we learn ways to overcome. Despite the pain and misery, nevertheless we go ceaselessly from darkness to dawn. From the raindrop, a plant reaches the top, triumphant at last. The root appears to be bloom, but manure converts to perfume, transmutation at its best. The plant will be crowned with flowers all around. Birds opera on their arrival, but flowers soon shall pass. Their martyrdom is a blast, but the ground's revival. From nature, we are taught Work hard, that's the law. All life is in movement, sculpting through sacrifices. We'll carve blocks of vices inside a stone, lies a monument. Lessons from suffering and pain. Change will always reign, even narrowest times without seas. Under the law of reincarnation, through many trials and expiations, they too will be messengers of peace. Let no one be idle. Today's angel was yesterday's Adam. Perfection is everyone's destiny. Life's purpose, splendid. God's love, transcendent. Our school, universe's eternity. On earth from time to time, sublime beacons of light dissipates the shadows away. Their presence are felt, forever as they dwell, transforming night into day. Never in history a sacrifice, such as the one portrayed by Christ, transpired for the sake of the truth. From the cross, the message is heard, forgive all, always serve, your pain I will soothe. It's Socrates and the Hemlock. It's Caesar's war being fought, inflaming oppression and cruelty. Selene in his heart, the imperialism of Bonaparte, spreading domination and tyranny. It's Dr. King's I Have a Dream, Lincoln's speeches never seen, the incarnation of renovators. It's the embodiment of humility from the charitable Francis of Assisi, the gospel resuscitator. Blessed be the teachers who illuminate the seekers, inspiring virtues in light. Bliss is yours to conquer. Although perfection is younger, your progress is right. In the entire universe, divine heavenly verses decree, march on. A celestial love awaits. Have hope, have faith towards the infinite to come. Thank you, God, for the blessing of speaking, and to you all, my friends, thank you for your patience, for listening.